What's happening in Venezuela is surreal. It's not only a country with a collapsing economy, hyperinflation, and a very serious security problem, but also with now a political and constitutional crisis. President Nicolás Maduro took office on January 10th, but more than a dozen countries in the region, as well as the United States and also the European Union, say his government is not legitimate because his election last year was fraudulent. After Maduro took office, things got even more chaotic. There was a small failed uprising of soldiers against the president. There was also a ruling by the Supreme Court saying the full National Assembly was illegitimate.
Por primera vez desde 1958,
President Nicolás Maduro took office on January 10th, but more than a dozen countries in the region, as well as the United States and also the European Union, say his government is not legitimate because his election last year was fraudulent. After Maduro took office, things got even more chaotic. There was a small failed uprising of soldiers against the president. There was also a ruling by the Supreme Court saying the full National Assembly was illegitimate.
por primera vez desde 1958,
Pompeo expresa.
More than 120 people died over several months of violent protests in 2017, and some fear that history may repeat itself. Well over 3 million people have fled Venezuela in the last couple of years, and an additional million are expected to do the same this year.
What rights do undocumented immigrants have when immigration agents come to detain them at their home or workplace? More than they might realize. Across the country, activist organizations are issuing step-by-step guidance to undocumented immigrants, advising them on what to do if ICE tries to apprehend them.
Please open the door.
Many of these guides remind undocumented immigrants of their constitutional rights under U.S. law, as well as what they can and can't do legally. Any person living on U.S. soil is protected by the Constitution's right to due process, even if they illegally entered the country. The guidance says that they can be represented by a lawyer, are allowed to present testimony and evidence before an immigration judge, and can appeal decisions to the Board of Immigration Appeals. The guides also warn against signing any documents without a lawyer present. A top recommendation: don't open the door to an ICE agent. ICE can attempt to get consent to access someone's home or workplace, but they are only legally allowed to enter someone's home if they have an arrest warrant signed by a judge. Here's where it can get confusing, though. There's another commonly used immigration document that also says warrant on it. The form, labeled I-205, is a warrant of removal and deportation, but it does not allow officers to enter a home without consent. Advocacy group United We Dream says ICE uses the I-205 form as a deliberately confusing and deceptive tactic to gain access to suspected illegal immigrants.
Those are not warrants of arrest, sir.
They are, sir. Warrant of arrest of alien.
Yeah, warrant of arrest of alien not signed by a judge. It's not a judicial warrant. I have no obligation to oblige by that warrant.
CNN reached out to ICE for comment and to specifically ask about their use of the I-205 form, but they did not respond. But ICE isn't backing down from its mission, issuing a warning to anyone seeking to protect undocumented immigrants from apprehension. In March, the agency told CNN that those who engage in such actions expose themselves to potential criminal violations and run the risk of harming the very people they purport to support. Under federal law, anyone concealing or shielding undocumented people from detection could...
I need my dad for me. My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
That's 11-year-old Magdalena Gomez Gregorio begging the Trump administration to release her father from custody. He was arrested in a sweeping ICE raid in Mississippi yesterday, one that targeted undocumented immigrants. And he was one of nearly 700 people detained in a community where fears are already heightened just days after that terrorist shooter targeted Latinos in El Paso. Some families have been reunited today. We are not sure if Magdalena and her dad are among them. A few weeks ago, when President Trump announced that there would be more raids by ICE, he said the focus would be on violent criminals. But obviously that is not what happened here, as CNN's Diane Gallagher in Morton, Mississippi reports.
Please, can I just see my mother, please?
Parents taken away on buses, separated from their children.
Her mom is the only one she has. That's her guardian.
In immigration raids across Mississippi on Wednesday.
I need my dad for me. My dad didn't do nothing. He's not a criminal.
Many children left behind at schools and daycares. One gym in a nearby town offering to house and feed children who were separated from their parents.
I understand the law and how everything works, and everything has a system, but everybody needs to hold the kids first and foremost in their mind.
Today, anxious family members are trying to locate their loved ones who were arrested.
There's a website that we were told that we could find anyone that's been processed and detained. I haven't been found a single person.
One woman telling CNN her husband, who has a heart condition, was arrested, leaving her and their 5-year-old son with no one to help them.
He asks me for his dad, where he is, and I tell him he's not here. I told him they took him, and he starts to cry because he needs him.
A total of 680 detentions at 7 food processing plants across 6 cities in Mississippi. Officials calling it the largest single-state immigration enforcement operation ever in the U.S.
While we are a nation of immigrants, more than that, we are first and foremost a nation of laws.
The raids on the heels of the El Paso shooting, where Latinos were purposely targeted, also came on the first day of school for those children. An ICE official telling CNN they did consider the impact on children and worked with school administrators, adding, quote, "This was planned for months, well before El Paso. We did this under past presidents. This is business as usual for us." Some detainees released overnight with ankle monitors like this. As White House officials tell CNN, ICE is scrambling to reunite some parents with their children because of child care issues, many of whom were placed with volunteers and strangers.
And Jake, we just got new information from the government. 271 of those nearly 700 people have been released. We also learned that they found 18 juveniles, one as young as 14 years old, working in those plants. I can tell you that CNN has also learned from a senior immigration official that they use these plant employees as informants, that one employee was paid between $500 and $800 for each unauthorized worker. Jake, we still have no word on if any of the owners or managers at these facilities are being charged.
All right, Diane Gallagher in Morton, Mississippi, thank you so much.